shopgear.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast.
And with that, we welcome you to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, powered by the Gear Radio Network, episode 131. It's looking like this could be a midwinter baseball cast. I don't know. We need to come up with a better name than that, I think. But anyway, I'm Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD, joined on the IndyCard Media Hotline by John Cimino at the JC Money. Is your Twitter back to at the JC Money?
It's back to at the JC Money. Don Jr. did not win, and I overcame the Twitter demons that were.
It's really funny because I saw your tweets about how you had been like locked for a couple days in a row, and then you send me the world's smallest picture. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And I zoom in on it, and it's you fighting with Trump Twitter trolls. And I said, well, this is probably why you got blocked, because those people are the worst, because they'll talk a bunch of smack and then they'll report you immediately. And when you get reported, it automatically locks your account, makes you change your password. So it doesn't do anything, but it's just annoying.
Well, that happened. It happened to me. And before we get into the baseball cast, I guess we'll talk about really quickly my Twitter battles here. So basically, I saw something on Twitter. It was tweeted from Don Jr. And so I comically replied something to the effect of him being a C word, and that, eventually he'll be able to enjoy. He won't be able to enjoy very much behind bars or something like that. It's gonna happen, but anyways, it was more shtick. That's what Twitter is it's shtick to me for my entertainment character. And literally 5 minutes after I posted that, I get locked out. And I'm like, what the hell? Like of all the things that Don Jr. probably gets on every one of his Twitter accounts or every one of his tweets, that one post about being behind bars by the JC Money, who's only popular amongst the Gear Network spectrum, and that's a barely popular, got to him so bad that all of a sudden my account got locked. Okay, so now they said my account, please verify your email. So I verify my email. Okay, problem solved. Well, 10 minutes later, happens again. I get locked again. I'm like, what the hell? All right, so verify your email. I verified my email. It pops up again, change your password. So I changed my password. 10 minutes later, goddamn thing pops up again. It's locked. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I had to figure, I spent all weekend. I got locked out literally 36 times was the final count. 36 fucking times I was locked out of Twitter because I made a joke about Donald Trump Jr. being behind bars. And whatever side of the political spectrum that you're on, that's ridiculous. All right. Yeah, so I ended up taking the JC Money. I put it on the GRN Productions Twitter handle because I didn't want to lose that Twitter handle name. And went not the fake JC for a bit. And then I tweeted something, and it was a sports related thing, and my goddamn account got locked again. I'm like, what? So I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I end up saying, all right, you know what? Maybe it's something with the algorithm and my email address. So I did it to another email address. And then I realized, and then once I did that, I verified that everything seemed okay. It was quiet. So I was not the fake JC for probably about 3 or 4 hours. I didn't get a block. So then I moved the JC Money back over to my Twitter handle, renamed the GRN Productions one at GRN Productions _. And all has been well ever since. And then yesterday I decide, because this is all about me right now, apparently, and I'm channeling my inner Perez with the storytelling here, so please bear with me. I crack a joke on Michael Avenatti's Twitter about Tommy Lauren or Tommy Lauren or whatever her stupid name is. I cracked a joke about her saying that she is the epitome of what happens when cousins marry. And I have cracked far worse jokes about that side, but apparently the Trump train rolled and stopped right at that tweet because
you look at the Trump train and you see who's involved in it, and you see why they might get offended by that joke. I mean, 2 and 2 together.
Right. Well, they're the same people that got offended over a goddamn razor commercial. But notwithstanding, we can take that to the JC Money show if we want. And believe me, that there's going to be some JC Money show coming very soon with me talking very passionately about all this stupid crap.
Did you throw your razor in your toilet too?
I did not throw my. I'm broke and I bought more goddamn razors just to sit there. I'm growing my beard out super full because the Flames, granted they lost to the Sabres yesterday. We won't talk about that. But the Flames have been doing so goddamn well that my playoff beard is like in full swing. And also, I don't have the wife anymore to tell me you can't grow your beard long because it looks like pubic hair, and I'm like, shut up, and then I have to deal with it or whatever. Well, guess what? I've got my pubic hair beard growing, goddammit, and the Flames are still in first place, I believe. And if they're not, let me believe that.
Twitter also did tell you that. I did see that one.
Yeah. Somebody told me that too, but they're basically like with those guys, I was just trolling the shit out of them, and it was so fun and it was so funny. And I ended up getting like about 5 more likes or follows on my account since then. And people are still liking the comment that I put on Avenatti's Twitter. Like the all-time likes comment that I have happened to be wrestling related because Randy Orton retweeted a tweet of mine. And that still gets likes, and it's over like 3,000 likes and retweets and all that stuff, which is cool. But this is the first time I've ever politically been noticed on Twitter. And it's awesome because most of these political junkies, these constitutional Twitter scholars on here have no fucking idea about anything outside of the past 2 years in politics.
That's
so whatever. Anyways, we're here to talk about baseball, right?
Yeah. With that being said, you can hear this podcast on betterlivethandead.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, essentially, like we always say, wherever you can get a podcast, you can get this podcast. And if you can't get it where you listen, let us know and we'll get it there. Simple as that. We're talking baseball like we do. It's Better Live
baseball.
Better Live Than Dead 131. And we got a lot to talk about today. We've got the latest on the New York Yankees making some moves. We've got Manny Machado, Bryce Harper news, and we've got the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's the real reason we're here today.
Can I do that? Yes, I'm a Yankees fan. Yes, you're a Red Sox fan, but can I please, every time you mention the Yankees, I feel compelled to do my David Ortiz impression from last postseason. So I apologize to all of my Yankees brethren, but there's no substitute for good comedy, so if you'll excuse me. Yankee lose. Okay, go ahead.
That's close. That's really close.
Yes, well, I just went on a 5-minute rant about Twitter and Don Jr. and the Trump train, so forgive me if my David Ortiz isn't up there.
Yankees lose.
Yankees lose. Yeah,
this is my favorite one. This is my favorite one.
All right, go on.
Hold on. That's my favorite one.
Oh, internet.
Sorry, podcast, if that didn't sound good, but John got the point. So, starting off with the New York Yankees, the reason I want to bring this up, not only because you're a Yankee fan, I'm a Red Sox fan, but it's hard to look past what the Yankees have done this offseason. Not offensively. I mean, granted, they did go out and pick up Troy Tulowitzki, which could be a nice little buy low, but he can't stay healthy. Yeah. But what they've done,
but here's the thing, and this is one thing that I want to comment about that because your on again, off again co-host Perez made a comment about the Yankees not really doing much offensively, and why they should sign Manny Machado. I don't think they should get Manny Machado at all. I don't freaking want that guy.
Well, you got to remember really quick, John. Sorry, I'm just going to jump in here really quick, just to point out, just to keep everything on the table here.
Okay.
The Yankees' offense last year hit the most home runs ever in a season in Major League Baseball history. Like that offense,
yes,
doesn't really need a whole lot of work done to it.
Right.
It's doing perfectly fine.
Right.
in my humble opinion. I
Right.
think the one thing that the Yankees saw was what the Red Sox were able to do last year, what the Dodgers were able to do last year, and it's have power arms in the bullpen. And to their credit, they've taken what they had and they added to it tenfold. They went out, they re-signed Zach Britton, who in years past has been a force coming off of a really nasty Achilles injury. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. He came back last year, was fine. They go out and get Adam Ottavino, 33-year-old reliever, born in New York City, apparently. Comes off of a campaign where he struck out 112 batters in 73 and 2/3 innings with a 2.43 ERA. Now, the bullpen right now for the Yankees is Aroldis Chapman, Dellin Betances, Chad Green, Zach Britton, Adam Ottavino. I mean, that's good luck.
That is an amazingly strong bullpen. They lost, David Robertson is he's out of there now, which he was one of my favorites. So the loss of him is terrible, but I'm very happy with what they've done for this bullpen. And, again, going back onto the point that I was originally trying to make, with not getting the big sexy names like Machado and Harper. You don't need them. You got Tulowitzki there, and he's going to be a very serviceable backup for Didi Gregorius while Didi recovers from his, I believe he had Tommy John surgery. I could be wrong there. But he had some kind of surgery. It's going to take him out through I believe mid-season. So having someone like Tulo in that spot, mind you, if you remember when he was a Colorado Rocky, he wore number 2. His idol was Derek Jeter. So he's going to be in the Jeter spot for at least half a season. You got to believe this guy's going to be doing what he can to make sure that he earns and continues to have that spot, so they're not going out to get the sexy free agent pickup or whatever. You know what I mean? The Yankees don't need more bats. They don't. They needed arms. The bullpen was the problem. They've addressed that issue. They've done a very, very good job with that, and they haven't really had to spend an arm and a leg to do it. So kudos to them, despite having a gigantic payroll that they could pay for anybody. Playing smart. They're playing smart, and that jives with me. I'm good with that.
Also, to point out here too about Manny Machado and the New York Yankees, it's really appears to continue to be the worst kept secret in all of baseball that that the Yankees will likely be in on Manny Machado at the finish line. Either they'll be one of the finalists, which they apparently already are, but I'm talking they'll be close on Machado either when he signs with someone else or if he doesn't end up signing with the Yankees, whatever. There's been a rumor out there that the White Sox offered 175 over 7, which has been disputed by Machado's agent.
Of course.
But that really does sound to me like someone's trying to get the Yankees interested. But here's the thing, John. Which is honestly why I think Machado ends up in Chicago or wherever else. And at this point in the clubhouse, the leader is the White Sox. I almost said are the White Sox. I don't know why. The leader is the White Sox because with Adam Ottavino's $9 million, and this is all from MajorLeagueBaseball.com. Many thanks to them because this is all fantastic stuff. With Adam Ottavino's $9 million average annual value tacked on, the Yankees project to be nearly $15 million over the luxury tax in 2019. New York can bump that down a bit by trading Sonny Gray in a $7.5 million salary, which is likely going to happen here soon. But signing Machado for $25 million or more annually could put the Yankees more than $30 million over the threshold. And this is important because the Yankees then would need to pay a 20% tax on all overages plus a 12% surtax for exceeding the threshold by $20 million to $40 million. And then here it says, due to the steeper penalties levied against the teams that exceed the threshold by more than $40 million, it would also inhibit the Yankees' ability to make major in-season additions to the roster. The teams that finish more than $40 million over are subject to 42.5% surtax and will have their highest selection in next Major League Baseball draft move 10 spots unless it falls in the top 6. In that case, the second highest selection is moved back 10 spots. So unless the Yankees suck really bad, they would certainly lose 10 spots. I like what the Red Sox did last year. They went all in, spent a ton of cash, went way over, but they won the World Series. So
in the end, that's all that matters. The Red Sox are able to raise one more World Series banner since the Yankees won it. And I believe when the Yankees won it in 2009, Boston, correct me, keep me honest here, I believe, including last year, has since raised 2 more banners. So
yeah.
So that end game in a sport where there's no salary cap and there's no, it's not like the NFL where, there's going to be an extraordinary large amount of penalties and things, you go all in one year, you're screwed the next year. Like, baseball doesn't have that. So for big market teams like the Red Sox, like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, they can, if they really want to go all in, they can go all in, and these luxury taxes or whatever, it means nothing to them because they're going to be raising, they have the potential to raise another banner. These smaller market teams like the Royals and stuff, they would love for the Yankees to splurge one good season and pay all that because, the luxury tax goes to those teams. So it really depends on what they want. If you're going to go all in like the Yankees did, or like the Red Sox did, at the end of the day, I mean, the Red Sox played last year's Red Sox played some of the, begrudgingly I say this, but taking the homer hat off, played some of the most amazing baseball ever. They were one of the best teams. You're talking about in a sport over 100 years old. That Red Sox team is labeled as one of the, if not the best team ever. Yeah. So big, at the end of the day, for teams like that, it is what it is. If they succeed at the very end, like the Red Sox did, then the Yankees are going to be okay shelling out whatever they have to shell out.
Yeah. And like I said, at the end of the day, it is one of those things where if you win it all, it makes sense. If you don't, you look like an absolute jackass. But speaking of signing players, we've got a lot of news in the past couple of days about Bryce Harper, and it seems like things are picking up. John Heyman tweets out on the 16th that the Phillies, Nationals, and White Sox are the only 3 teams known to be in on Bryce Harper. It says, for what it's worth, word is several teams are said to be waiting in the wings. Waiting suggests this may take a while, but then again, we're about a month or so out from spring training. But with that being said, I must mention Tom Verducci, John, dropped a big report today, citing source with knowledge of the Philadelphia Phillies offseason plans. While the Phillies have enough money to sign both Bryce Harper and Manny Machado, they actually would like to sign just one. Why would that be, John? I'll be more than happy to tell you because I feel like I predicted this a couple podcasts ago, but Tom Verducci writes, quote, in one dream scenario, the Philadelphia Phillies would field an all-MVP outfield in 2021. Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, and Andrew McCutchen. That is apparently their sights. They have it set right now, and if I'm not mistaken, like I said, I may or may not have projected that to be happening because I thought, Mike Trout's from New Jersey, right by Philadelphia. You go over the bridge, you're there, boom, bada bing, bada boom, great times. And Trout and Harper in the same lineup would be unreal. But Philadelphia's got to start small first, get Harper in-house, and then move forward from there.
That's what they absolutely need to do. And just imagine how pissed off Nationals fans would be if Harper winds up on the Phillies. Same division. Now they're going to they're going to have to be constantly reminded of what they had with him. And, going to a division rival like the Phillies, whom have raised more banners in the past 10 years than have the Nationals. I mean, they can very well be. That could be a very interesting and intriguing storyline. I don't know that it's going to be a rivalry because I feel like with this move, with Harper leaving the Nationals, that the Nationals that we saw that were constantly in contention until the playoffs, that era's done. I have a feeling it's slowly going to be weaning itself out, and soon enough the Nationals will be the Expos again, and that's where we're headed, I believe, and perhaps Harper even knows that. But it would still be very intriguing to see him with another NL East team. I can't lie there.
So looking at moving over to the Baseball Hall of Fame now, because I do want to get on this not only for this year but for next year. As we've mentioned before, The Baseball Hall of Fame tracker done by Ryan Thibodeau on Twitter. He's done a fantastic job. As of this evening, actually, 185 ballots have been made public, 5 anonymous, 180 public. Roughly 44.9% of the ballots have been known at this point. Locks for the Hall of Fame, Mariano Rivera, who through 185 votes has 100% of the vote. Roy Halladay, 94.1% of the vote. He's projected to go to the Hall of Fame.
As should Mariano Rivera have 100% of the vote.
I think we're ready, and if it doesn't happen this year, it'll happen next year, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. Edgar Martinez at 90.8% in his 10th year of eligibility, likely going in. I don't know why it took so long, but he'll be going in. And then when we get to Mike Messina, he's at 82.2%. So right now, as far as we know of the voting, he'll be in, but that will likely change. If Messina doesn't go in this year, definitely next year he's that close to getting in. And by the way, too, I believe if I'm not mistaken, on the 22nd, I want to say, the results come out sometime next week. I know that for sure.
Well, then let's definitely connect next week as well. We're Thinking Man's podcast here, ladies and gentlemen, thinking on the air, on the fly.
Absolutely.
Let's connect next week then when the announcements are made and discuss this even more in detail.
Absolutely, because that way we can kind of preview next year, but we'll because by then we can do our predictions for next year once we know who's available and what the results are. But right now, just judging by these by the current ballots known, it really looks like, John, we have Hall of Famers and Hall of Very Gooders. You've got Mariano Rivera, like I said, 100, 94 Roy Halladay, 90 for Edgar Martinez, 82.2 for Mike Messina, Curt Schilling currently at 74.1%, Roger Clemens at 73.5%, Barry Bonds at 73%, Larry Walker at 67%, and then there's a big drop-off. It goes down to 37.3% for Omar Vizquel. So I'm expecting and kind of projecting that we will see this big gap where there's going to be, you've got 8 players right now who are either going to be named Hall of Famers or are going to be on the fast track to being Hall of Famers. If I'm not mistaken, it's either 55 or 60%. If you get that percentage of the vote, those players always get named to the Hall of Fame. So I'm thinking, just quick thoughts here. If Messina doesn't go in this year, he'll go in next year. Larry Walker won't make it this year, it looks like, but next year is year 10. He belongs in the Hall of Fame, in my humble opinion. Yes. Schilling, Clemens, and Bonds, they're going to make it. We know Schilling is a serial racist. Clemens and Bonds, again, I stand by the fact of, did they do steroids? Probably. Did they fail a drug test? Negative. They never failed the test. You can't pin it on them.
See, here's the thing. It goes
tough.
with the Clemens and the Bonds thing. Like, where were these moral compass voters when baseball was coming out of the strike of 1994? And attendance was dwindling. It was terrible. People were so sour on baseball, even in larger markets. And then all of a sudden, these things, the home run chase with Sosa and McGuire happened, and then years later came Bonds, taking the home run record, and Roger Clemens having his second win after being on the quote twilight of his career, and getting a second win with the Blue Jays, and then the Yankees, and then the Astros, and doing all that. And where were these moral compass warriors then when ratings were going through the roof, when baseball was popular again, when they were actually doing stuff to market these stars, which they don't market their stars very well, unlike the NBA, whom does that exceptionally well. But where were these moral compass warriors then when they were making, like look at the Chicago Cubs. They were how much money did they make off of Sammy Sosa? Regardless, cork that aside, how much money did they make off of Sammy Sosa? How much money did Major League Baseball make off of Bonds jerseys, off of Clemens jerseys, off of, just even Gary Sheffield, even Sheffield had his fans and was hitting for power and doing some things and making some money, and gave us the forever awesome Magic Cream and Magic Balm references that I like to make whenever I talk about stupid crap. But where were these moral compass warriors then? They were riding on the coattails. People were reading their blogs. People were reading their columns. People were buying magazines that had their names on it and everything. Now all of a sudden it comes time for these guys to go in the Hall of Fame, and it's like, oh well, they cheated. Like, there's no, what? They both went through the court systems and all that stuff. They had nothing on them. Get off your freaking high horse, baseball voters. These guys need to be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, regardless of what they did. You have serial racists, you have wife beaters, you have cocaine addicts, you have all sorts of. People that were involved in very racist people back in the early days. I stand people in the Hall of Fame.
I stand by this.
Go ahead.
I stand by this. When they talk about Bond and Clemens took performance-enhancing drugs, Hank Aaron's in the Hall of Fame, and I've said this in the podcast before. I know this. Hank Aaron's in the Hall of Fame, and he admitted using performance-enhancing drugs because they'd make coffee with greenies in it to get them hyped the hell up, and they'd go out and they'd play baseball out of their goddamn minds. Like that's the same idea, different substance, obviously, but that's the same exact idea that a baseball player would do something that assists them in being a better player, whether it's giving them better focus, whether it's making them more energized, or in Bonds and Clemens' case, allegedly giving them more power. But I've always thought this, like with Barry Bonds, the hand-eye coordination, you can't get that from taking drugs. You can't be able to pitch like Clemens did by taking drugs. Did Clemens prolong his career? Most likely, because after Boston, he was trash. And then at the end of his time in Boston, he was pretty bad. And then he ends up going to Toronto, wins 2 straight Cy Youngs, and you're like, where the hell did this guy come from? I mean, that's why there's so much suspicion. But again, show me a failed drug test, and then I'll say you don't belong in the Hall of Fame. Now, granted, John, I've told you this before. I've said this on a podcast before. Educate the fan base. Educate and say, look, there's suspicion, but they were never, ever, ever, ever convicted of anything. They never failed a drug test. Nothing. That's all you got to say. It's all you got to do. But I feel like that's my high horse that I'm gonna. That's the hill I'm choosing to die on tonight. Because, excuse me, I think that those guys belong in the Hall of Fame. I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm ready for them to be in the Hall of Fame. Let's move past it, because honestly, right now, 2020, it's going to be Derek Jeter. That's the year of Derek Jeter.
Oh yes.
If Mariano Rivera doesn't get 100%, Derek Jeter gets 100%, because again,
and please believe I am going to do whatever I can to make sure that I take the trip to Cooperstown, and so I can witness this.
And I would love to do the same for David Ortiz. Just a heads up, because I know he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, as he should be. There should be no question about that either.
But you'll get the people who say, we failed the drug test. No, you never failed the drug test. The drug test he allegedly failed in 2003, the Mitchell report. The commissioner of baseball came out and said that shouldn't even be there. That's not an actual failed drug test. So
right,
again,
exactly.
Do your homework. When it comes to Schilling, what comes to Schilling, he's a racist. We know that. Greatest postseason pitcher ever. Higuantes racist. He doesn't. I hope if he goes in the Hall of Fame, they just don't give him a microphone, because it's going to be a political diatribe, and the dude goes off the deep end super fast. We don't need it. But Clemens and Bonds, Hall of Fame all day. Larry Walker, Hall of Fame all day.
Schilling is another one I pissed off on Twitter once.
I remember that, yeah.
Apparently you can't talk to him about his failed perfect game. I remind him that Clay Buchholz did it 2 weeks later.
See, I remember that. Was it the game in Oakland? He had like 2 outs in the 9th and he blew it.
Yep.
I remember that. It was something like that. It was
even Josh Beckett
like
after Buchholz got it. You could tell how Josh Beckett felt about him, because after Buchholz got it, he looked at the camera and he goes, that's two more than Schilling got.
Well, I'm actively losing my voice here. I think this has been a good podcast. I know you got your chicken wings over there. So
I'm scarfing these down in celebration. It's a celebration over here. Studio A in the Gear Network studios here.
Hey, that's all good, man. That's all good. Mm-hmm. Congratulations on the news you received today. Well, with that being said, I am at Wolf BLTD. John is at the JC Money. We are here. We're live. We're better live than dead, like we always say.
You're not.
We'll be back. No, I'm not there yet. Don't you worry.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going there, and I didn't want to rush out of here. You're okay. I appreciate you.
All right.
Hall of Fame coming up on the 22nd, I believe. We'll be talking sometime next week. Even if it's a quick 15-minute podcast, we'll be back around to review the results, talk about 2020, who's going in, who's getting kicked out, who fell off the ballot, who's coming onto the ballot. We got it all for you here. But we'll talk to you very soon. And like we always say, John, we are better live than dead.
You're not.
We'll catch you sometime very soon. Thanks again for tuning in.
Good night now. The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.